Go.
All right, so we're back. This is Bobby again, and we're gonna take the claw technique that we learned in the video with the banana and apply it to this cucumber. I'll show you some different variations to that, and then I'll introduce a new technique called a bridge. So if you recall, we have our workflow set up. We're moving things from left to right as we're working with them. I've traded out my butter knife for a larger chef's knife without a serrated edge, and it's in position at the top of my cutting board. And the claw technique, we started by holding our hand in a fist, making that fist collapse around the cucumber. And now with the cucumber, we have a different option because it's larger and because it's harder. You could hold it kind of between your fingertips. So you really could make a claw like if you were a bear or a tiger. And you can hold it right between your fingertips and your nails. That may not be a good way to do it with a banana because the banana is soft and there's a potential to squeeze a little too hard and crush it. But with this, it's nice and sturdy, so if this is more comfortable, feel free to use that variation. Again, as long as the thumb is not pointing in the direction that the knife is coming from, you're golden. So we'll start with the claw technique, and I'm gonna again cut this cucumber into a half. But I'm first gonna try to find if there's an edge that is flatter so it has something to sit on. And to do that, I'm feeling tactually, running my fingers down the length of the cucumber. And then when I found the edge I think is flat, I'm gonna lay it on that edge and do a little bit of rocking to see if it's really sitting there or is it able to roll. And so if you notice, I'm kind of acting like I'm gonna push the cucumber away, but very lightly, and it's not losing its place. So that lets me know I have a good flat edge. So just a quick review of the claw technique. I'm gonna find the center point of my cucumber, coming in from the tips until my fingers meet in the middle. Do my claw technique. So now, in this method with the smooth blade, we're gonna keep the tip of our knife on the board the whole time and do a paper cutter motion. So I'll show you the motion, move the cucumber out, and just show you this up and down. That lets the knife do the work. The more of the work that the knife is doing, the less work we are doing, and the less likely the knife is gonna start wiggling and moving and slipping. And when that knife starts doing all those kinds of motions, that's when things can become dangerous because those slips can nick our fingers. So I've slid the cucumber back into place, again reaching in with my middle finger to kind of gauge my spacing, and I'm just gonna move straight down. And I'm gonna put my other half on the left side of my board. So for the bridge technique, I'm actually gonna go with the bigger piece of my cucumber because that actually was not half. So for the bridge technique, you start with the hand that you're not cutting with, so the same hand you use for the claw, and you start with your hand in a C. And then you kind of place that C directly on the board, fingertips down on the board, cucumber between the C. So if you imagine that your hands are the C shape, and this, especially this point between your thumb and your index finger is the bridge, your cucumber is kind of like the boat or the water that's going under the bridge. Yeah, let's call it the water. And then we can imagine our knife as the boat that's gonna cut across the water. See how I did that there? Okay. So I'm gonna reach in with my knife, reach and grab my knife, and I'm gonna move it back towards my hand that's in the bridge shape. So I'm gonna find my knuckles with the back of my blade instead of with the cutting edge of my blade. And I'm gonna kind of work my way around my fingers so that I'm finding the opening completely with the back of my blade. And then once my knife is in the opening, I'm still gonna keep the back of the blade in contact with my hand so I know exactly where that knife is. Reach in until I found the tip of my board. So again, keeping the knife on the tip and positioning it. I'm using both fingers now to kind of, both sides, so the side where my thumb is and the side where my index finger is, to see where is about half of that cucumber. And then I'm just gonna move down and cut the cucumber in half. There we go. And that is your bridge technique. and that's great for cutting things in half. I'm gonna move the unused piece back to my left side. That can also be good for cutting things into strips. So if I wanted to then cut this cucumber into strips, that could be used for a wrap. I'm coming in and I'm doing that same technique. Again, using all my fingers to gauge where I'm cutting before I cut. And then moving everything out of the way, put my knife down, and you can see I have long, thick strips of cucumbers. So all cuts that you do are going to be using a combination and variations of the claw and the bridge, but those are your two basic techniques for cutting.